When we are talking about World War I, we usually thinking of muddy trenches, barbed wire, artillery barrages, and deadly gas attacks on the Western Front. Yet, far from these familiar battlefields, another front existed. One where the enemy was not only the opposing army, but nature itself. This was the Italian front. A brutal theater of war fought high in the unforgiving Alps. Here, soldiers faced a silent, crushing adversary that claimed thousands of lives, often without a single shot being fired. This video explores a unique and devastating event known as the White Friday, a day when the mountains unleashed their fury, causing a series of avalanches that became one of the deadliest natural disasters in modern history. Despite its immense scale and tragic human cost, the White Friday remains a largely overlooked chapter of the Great War, a forgotten horror that barely made headlines even at the time. Fighting in the Alps was a constant grueling battle for survival against the environment, a struggle unlike any other front of the war. Soldiers endured conditions that went far beyond the threat of enemy fire. They faced extreme cold, blizzards, and deep snow that could accumulate to amazing depths. During the winter of 1916, for instance, snow pileups were recorded at 8 to 12 meters on the top of the mountain summits. This unprecedented snowfall, particularly in the winter of 1916-1917, which was one of the snowiest of the century, made movement and communication incredibly difficult. Mountain outposts were often isolated, cut off by heavy snowfall that disrupted telephone lines and left soldiers stranded without vital supplies. For most of the mountainous front line, the shovel became the most important tool for a soldier. Avalanches were an almost daily occurrence, constantly causing new casualties. This continuous low-level loss of life, distinct from major battles, meant a steady drain on manpower and resources. It was a silent, cumulative form of attrition, less dramatic than large-scale engagement, but ultimately devastating, weakening units over time. An Austro-Hungarian officer famously summarized this grim reality, stating that the mountains in the winter are more dangerous than the Italians. This highlights how the environment itself became something that they also had to fight and constantly thinking about. The sheer effort required for digging tunnels and clearing snow diverted important resources and attention, weakening both sides without direct engagement. The central event of this natural catastrophe occurred on December 13th of 1916. After 9 days of snowfall, the snow reached critical weight. The weather then changed, bringing warm air from the Mediterranean into the mountains. This made the snow line go higher very quickly, and it even started raining in the higher areas. The snow became much denser and heavier. Because of this, dozens of huge avalanches crashed down all over the region, even in spots that people thought were safe before. Whole groups of soldiers were buried. The latest numbers suggest that very likely that around 5,000 soldiers died in the avalanches only on that day, but other reports and studies shows different numbers, so yeah. At 5:30 in the morning, the most significant avalanche struck. Over 200,000 tons of snow and ice, roughly equivalent to 1 million cubic meter, plunged down the mountainside directly onto the Austro-Hungarian barracks at Grand Pose, which was on Mont Marmolada. The wooden buildings packed with soldiers collapsed instantly under the crushing weight, burying hundreds of men alive. Of the 321 troops present at the Marmolada barracks, which included Kaiserschützen mountain infantry and Bosnian support columns, approximately 270 to 300 soldiers were buried. Tragically, only about 40 bodies were even recovered from the massive pile of snow and debris. They were the first casualties of White Friday, but not the last. This was not an isolated incident. On the very same day, other avalanches struck Italian and other Austro-Hungarian positions across the front, killing hundreds more. An Italian division of the 7th Alpine also suffered devastating blow when the mountain barracks were overrun by snow. The widespread nature of these disasters on the 13th of December led the coining of the term White Friday, although it's worth noting that the event actually happened on Wednesday. The name likely stuck due to its association with Saint Lucy's Day, a commemorative religious holiday observed by many Italian Catholics on 13th of December. When soldiers died in these avalanches, it was especially complicated because many bodies were never found. Tons of snow and ice just swallowed them, leaving no trace. This made it very difficult for their families to get closure and for the army to keep proper records. Many soldiers were simply listed as missing, and even today, as the ice and snow melts, new bodies are found from this period. These events were also incredibly difficult mentally for soldiers who survived and saw their friends and comrades disappear in the snow. The camp at Gran Pos on Mon Marmolada is a sad example of this. The barracks were put specifically there because they were safe from Italian attacks, hidden from direct fire from high altitude howitzers and too far for bombs to reach. But this exact spot, right under a huge amount of unstable snow, put the soldiers in an even bigger, more dangerous situation from nature. What seemed like a good military idea could turn out to be deadly when facing the raw power of nature, and that's a difficult decision what they had to make at this point. What even makes this more sad that the Austro-Hungarian commander Captain Rudolf Schmidt noticed the imminent danger his company faced, and he wrote a request to his superior, to Field Marshal Lieutenant Ludwig Goinger of the 60th Infantry Division, to move his soldiers from the location. The request was turned down to vacate the base atop Grand Pos summit. What started the series of avalanches is not entirely clear. A chilling and controversial claim emerged from the Italian front that both Italian and Austro-Hungarian forces may have deliberately fired artillery shells into unstable snowpacks. The alleged purpose of this tactic was to trigger massive avalanches onto enemy positions, effectively using nature's destructive power as a weapon. Some reports and witnesses from the time supported this idea, suggesting that soldiers observing how easily the snow collapsed might have actively helped nature in its deadly mission. This concept of weaponizing avalanches blurs the traditional line between military combat and natural disasters, suggesting an extreme and desperate adaptation of warfare where the landscape itself became an extension of the battlefield. However, it's crucial to approach or accept this claim carefully. While the idea is disturbing and such tactics might have been considered or even used during the war, there is not much concrete evidence that deliberate shelling was the direct cause of the White Friday avalanches. The primary cause was the extreme natural weather conditions, heavy snowfall followed by a sudden thaw, creating ripe conditions for avalanches. The documentary information regarding deliberate triggering is also described as not very specific. This highlights the inherent difficulty establishing if there was any help from any of the sides, especially when these natural forces were already at play and very likely could have caused a disaster independently. While the thought of weaponizing avalanches is indeed chilling, I think the main culprit behind White Friday was Mother Nature amplified by one of the snowiest winters in a century. The impact of White Friday extends far beyond the casualties of 13th of December. While historical documents suggesting between 2,000 and 5,000 soldiers died only on that specific day, the broader period of December 1916 soon estimated around 10,000 soldiers killed by avalanches across all sides. This staggering figure makes White Friday or the period around it one of the greatest number of deaths caused by snow and ice avalanches in history. To understand the unique and underappreciated lethality of the Alpine theater, these numbers must be put into perspective. Over the entire 3-year war in the Austro-Italian Alps, at least 60,000 soldiers died from avalanches. This number is even more shocking when compared to other, more infamous causes of death in World War I. For example, if I remember well, around 26,000 troops were killed directly by poison gas on the entire Western Front. The fact that a natural phenomenon, avalanches, killed more soldiers on the Italian front over 3 years than poison gas did across the entire Western Front reveals how deadly this was. The worst winters for avalanche casualties were 1915-16 and 16-17, which truly showed the extent of death by nature. Interestingly, casualties due to avalanches dropped considerably in the winter of 17-18. This reduction was largely because troops were withdrawn from the highest mountains following major strategic shifts, such as the Italian army defeat at Caporetto and subsequent retreat. This demonstrates a direct link between military strategy and the reduction of natural casualties, showing that the danger was tied to human presence in dangerous areas. White Friday stands as a powerful and tragic example of nature's destructive power intersecting with human conflict, leading to a large-scale disaster. The human cost of fighting in the unforgiving Alpine environment during World War I was immense, with thousands of soldiers lost not to enemy fire, but to the silent, crushing force of the mountains. This event, despite its historical significance and the massive casualties it caused, remains largely overlooked in the broader narrative of World War I. Well, if you got this far, thank you for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it, you learned something new, and don't forget to like my video, subscribe to my channel, share the video, start a conversation in the comment section, and as always, thank you for being here. Bye!